What's happening, everyone? We are back again, and let's kick things off with 5 news items from this week. And we're going to start with something comedic. WWE apparently want to rebuild their tag team division. The jokes write themselves. So I'm reading from WrestleZone, and they reported on May 20th. The news comes after WWE recently released several talents after WrestleMania 42, including teams like the Motor City Machine Guns and the Wyatt Six. The New Day's Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods also chose to leave after the promotion reportedly asked them to take significant pay cuts. MFT's Tonga Loa and JC Mateo also recently departed from the company. And now you want to rebuild the tag team division. And I saw somewhere as well that they're saying they want to, potentially sign some tag teams. Make it make sense. You release tag teams, great tag teams, to then say you want to sign tag teams to try and rebuild a tag team division that you killed. What? You've got Fraxium in catering. You've got LWO, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wild somewhere in catering or in AAA. War Raiders are in AAA. You have Pila. Who the hell is Pila? You have Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate under masks, and as entertaining as they are in those masks, you've got a decent tag team there that isn't being utilized efficiently or in the best way for the tag team division. Then you've got the Creed brothers who have finally returned, and you put them under masks. And now you want to rebuild the tag team division by signing new tag teams when you have released tag teams. Anyway, this article continues. Recent reports also noted that former Cruiserweight champion Enzo Amore has been visiting the WWE Performance Center often, and that he and the promotion had been in touch since WrestleMania 42 weekend. Another report from Fightful also noted that Big Cass AEW contract will be up in late May or early June, fueling speculation that both stars could reunite in WWE in the coming days. Now, I had stopped watching WWE before Enzo Amore and Big Cass were a thing, but I've always heard hype around them and people loving them as a tag team. So if they're bringing them back, it means nothing to me personally because I don't have any, viewing experience of the two of them. But one thing that I did consider when Danhausen had his segment on SmackDown last Friday and he was in his lab and he pulled out the gurney that had a big person on it, I was thinking, with the news that Big Bill's contract at AEW could be coming to an end, I wonder if it's Big Bill who's going to return in that spot with Danhausen. So I guess we'll find out. Some news from a company that does seem to care about its tag team division, AEW. This news is about Tony Khan wanting to take big swings in 2027. So I'm reading once again from WrestleZone.com, and they reported on May 21st. Tony Khan says AEW is preparing to take big swings in 2027, and the timing of those comments has quickly grabbed attention across the wrestling world. With WWE's WrestleMania 43 expected to head to Saudi Arabia, questions are already swirling about how aggressively AEW plans to counter-program one of sports entertainment's biggest weekends. Speaking during AEW's Double or Nothing media call in May 2026, Khan addressed speculation surrounding the future of AEW's major events calendar, particularly the location of All In 2027. When asked by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful whether All In would remain at Wembley Stadium or potentially return to North America, Khan stopped short of confirming anything concrete. However, he made it clear AEW isn't planning to play small ball. Quote, I haven't decided what to do in 2027 yet, Khan said, but I do know 2027 will be another very big year for AEW and I plan to take big swings. So let's see what happens there, because as soon as WrestleMania 43 was announced for Saudi Arabia, there was so much discourse about how much advantage AEW could take of the gap being left in North America by WWE taking their biggest show of the year outside of North America. So I think, do you know what I mean? Considering WWE have made concerted efforts to counter-program AEW last year. Do you remember in was it June or July? One of the J months. But they had Great American Bash with NXT. They had Saturday Night's Main Event and Evolution. 3 events in one weekend, the same weekend as All in Texas. Tony Khan, do you know what I mean? Do your thing. Yeah, man. And I don't know what location, like, I guess the obvious location to take All In would be New Orleans, no, wait, were New Orleans supposed to have WrestleMania this year? They were supposed to have WrestleMania this year, right? And then it went back to Las Vegas. So New Orleans would be a good shout. I don't know. I guess we'll find out where he decides to take All In and what these big swings are. But personally, I like the sound of it. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of smaller promotions and independent promotions, Wrestle Convention, is it WrestleCon that happens on WrestleMania weekend? All of those things, they're not going to go to Saudi Arabia necessarily. So if AEW can provide a big event like that in North America, that all of these companies and these conventions can, be a part of and piggyback off of, he looks like a hero, the same way he did when he provided talent after TNA pulled talent from independent shows. But yeah, let's see what happens there. Moving on, Ludwig Kaiser has been arrested for battery. So this broke on May 20th, and I'm reading from Post Wrestling on May 21st with an update. So they write, WWE talent Ludwig Kaiser, whose real name is Marcel Barthel, was arrested on May 20th on a charge of battery in Orange County, Florida. Barthel posted the $1,000 bond. Officer Victor Cortez offered a sworn affidavit detailing the misdemeanor battery charge from April 23rd. According to the affidavit, Cortez responded to a complaint from Richard Reep at Paramount on Lake Eola in Orlando. Reep alleged that at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, he entered an elevator and was followed by a male who was suspected to be Barthel and an unknown female. Reep claimed that the white male and the unknown white female began acting in an uncontrollably intimate manner, which was described as aggressively kissing. After reaching the 12th floor, Reep said he told the couple to please have some manners. Reep alleged that the male attacked him after making the statement. Reep claimed the male punched him multiple times and pushed him to the ground, while also stating that the male made additional threats of violence. Officer Cortez testified that he observed a large, fresh scratch on the back of Reep's head, along with redness, which he believed was consistent with a physical altercation. Officer Benavides assisted with the incident and reviewed surveillance footage from the 12th floor, observing a white male punching and pushing Reep outside of the elevator around the same time as reported. Barthel waived his appearance for purposes of arraignment and entered a not guilty plea. Barthel also filed a request to allow out-of-state and international travel. Of course, he has to go back and forth to Mexico. Of course, Ludwig Kaiser, aka the real El Grande Americano, has a mask versus mask match versus the original El Grande Americano. Some say it's Chad Gable, scheduled for May 30th. And that match has been built so well in AAA. I watched AAA, the most recent episode, I think the 16th of May, and it was really good, the segment that they had. And even though it's not as hot in North America, there's still anticipation for that match because of how this storyline has progressed. And I really hope by some miracle something is resolved before that match, because it would be a real shame for it to not go ahead. But the next best case scenario is that he's cleared, he's entered a not guilty plea. There is a follow-up I'm going to give you here, but hopefully, he can be cleared before the match happens, or at least to the point that the match can be postponed and still happen in the future. So this is the follow-up from Raj Giri. He tweeted, "This is what I heard regarding the Ludwig Kaiser situation. He was in the apartment elevator with Andrea Bezzate, I hope I'm saying her name right, and they were being affectionate, but nothing crazy or out of the ordinary. Reep allegedly didn't say anything in the elevator, but once he got out on the 12th floor, he allegedly said something to Kaiser to the effect of, 'You need to show some effing respect before I call ice on that B.' Kaiser got out of the elevator and they had a little scuffle, but no punches were apparently thrown. So that is quite a different, detailing of events. You've got one affidavit saying that, there are cuts and redness that are synonymous with him being physically attacked. And then you've got this saying that there was just a little scuffle, but no punches were thrown. And there's the added element of, some kind of racial element to this. So we'll have to see how it unfolds and go from there. But I just hope that it can get resolved and that it doesn't affect Ludwig Kaiser's work, because what he's been doing as, El Grande Americano, as much as we all kind of I say we all, but some of us might have clowned it at first and been like, you don't use Ludwig Kaiser and now you put him under a mask, it has played in his favor massively. So hopefully all of that work doesn't go down the drain. But moving on to the next news item that I want to speak about. So Asuka speaks on her WWE departure, and this video was posted like late May 21st or early May 22nd, depending on where you might be in the world. But I am reading from Getting Over Wrestling Podcast, who summarized what she said in her video quite nicely. And they said Asuka addressed her WWE status in a new YouTube video. Short version, Asuka is still with WWE, but stepped away for a personal matter and will likely be part-time going forward. Here's what she said, translated into English. I know there are a ton of rumors flying around out there. People asking, are we ever going to see Asuka wrestle again? Is she going back to Japan? Is she leaving WWE? The truth is, it was a personal matter. I reached out to WWE and we talked it through. But let's be clear, as you all know from watching my matches, I can still go. I am still at the top of my game. I've been with WWE for over 10 years now, almost like it was just a given. And because it became such a part of your daily routine, I think my presence there just became something everyone took for granted. But remember, nothing lasts forever. Everything is finite. You see, I'm not just a wrestler by trade, I'm a designer too. Even the way I live my life has to be art. I'm sure you're all wondering what's next for me and how I'll be involved with TV and the tours moving forward. But don't forget, I am still officially with WWE. So there's a chance I might just pop up in front of you when you least expect it. Let's be honest, no one will ever make the kind of historic impact I made from day one. I don't think anyone will ever climb to the top non-stop, grabbing every title and accolade along the way I did. And because I'm a true pioneer, there will never be another Asuka. So from here on out, if you ever catch a glimpse of me, you better cherish it because it's going to be rare. Honestly, first of all, I love the way that she is speaking of herself. Talk your ish, Asuka. I love that. But she says that she's officially still with WWE. So we're going to see her wrestle again, but we don't know when. Asuka mentioning being with WWE for 10 years and it just being a given almost, and people taking her presence for granted. I think that's an interesting point for her to make, because as a fan, we could say that, yeah, her booking was, it seemed like she was being taken for granted. And then we had her in something with IYO SKY and Kairi Sane that we were invested in and wanted to see paid off. And then Kairi gets released. So, again, main thing, I'm happy that Asuka has made the choice that is best for her. She deserves it. And like she said, she can still go. So we'll have to just be on our toes, ready for when she pops up. And like she says, when she does pop up, on that rare occasion, we better cherish it. Moving on to the final bit of wrestling news that I want to talk about from this week. Kota Ibushi wants to build a wrestling venue. So on May 21st, he posted to what seems to be a newly created Twitter account. And in this video, when I first started watching it, he mentioned his birthday and he was, speaking about his accomplishments, his time in the wrestling business. And as I'm watching it, I'm holding my breath thinking he's about to say it's over in regards to his injury, because he said that a comeback is unlikely. But as it progressed, we found out that he meant unlikely for now. Obviously, it was projected it would be like a 2-year recovery for him. He had a broken femur. in that match, I believe, with Josh Alexander that happened in November last year on Collision. And Kota Ibushi, being who he is saying that, you know, he's superhuman, he'll come back sooner. We saw him pop up at Hiroshi Tanahashi's retirement, and he walked that whole ramp with no crutches. That man is insane. But part of me is happy that he seems to be accepting what might be the reality, but it seems as though it's not all over for him. And I can't believe the man is 44 years old. Oh my gosh. But I'm reading from WrestlingInc.com, who summarized what he said in this video. And they said Kota Ibushi has been on the road to recovery since being injured last November during an AEW match against Josh Alexander. The injury has resulted in 2 surgeries. In a new Instagram video, I saw it on Twitter, Ibushi says that he just turned 44 and admits a comeback seems unlikely for now. So he's turning his focus to another way to contribute to the wrestling business. Ibushi believes the wrestling industry is facing a crisis as Shinjuku Face is closing. He's wrestled there many times and believes that was the perfect venue for independent wrestling promotions. I believe the disappearance of such venues is equivalent to a crisis for the culture of professional wrestling. Therefore, I'm putting my body on the line to earn money. I am going to build a pro wrestling venue. He asks to be given work, and it doesn't matter if it's a small project. Due to his injury, he can't have matches, but he can do other things. He states that it doesn't matter how long it takes, but he will get a venue built. And at the end of the video, it kind of threw it to a bit of a teaser for the next installment, where he goes to try and get funding for this venue, and it looked a little bit comedic. So I'm excited to see what we see on this little series. I only became familiar with Kota Ibushi in the past 2 years, and he is a phenomenal in-ring talent. And what I love most about him is his range. He goes from having these silly comedic matches in DDT to having these absolute bangers against Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi in New Japan Pro Wrestling and other promotions. I don't know, he's just such a special pro wrestler. And as soon as I sort of laid eyes on him, his energy, his heart, even wanting to get back to wrestling so soon with a broken femur and then walking down that ramp for Hiroshi Tanahashi's retirement. Kota Ibushi is a special talent, and in the short time that I've been familiar with him and his work, I felt that pang of pain when I thought he was about to announce being done with the wrestling business, but wishing him a steady recovery and hoping he can get back to wrestling. But in the meantime, seeing him on his journey of building a pro wrestling venue is something that I'm excited to see. Let's move into some news coming out of the shows this week. And I'm recording this on a Friday, so I'm only going to speak about Raw, NXT, and Dynamite so far. And on Raw, the biggest talking point to come out of that show is that the man Paul Heyman referred to as Brock Lesnar has returned. He returned and targeted Oba Femi while Oba Femi was, in his pose. The interesting thing that I noticed is that Oba Femi normally lifts his left heel slightly in his pose, but I can imagine he was prepared for what was to come. So he had both heels firmly planted on the ground. But Brock Lesnar returned and laid out Oba Femi with 4 F5s, also split his pants once again. Like, Brock, you gotta fix that. What's going on? Anyway, but listen, I don't want to see Brock Lesnar back in WWE because I don't think it's necessary. And him putting over Oba Femi at WrestleMania and then retiring, let it be. That's a fine moment. That was great for Oba Femi. However, let's work with the situation we are now in. What I will say is that I have vocalized the fact that I think the match only going 4 minutes and 46 seconds limited how they could book Oba Femi before his next big program, because it makes you think, okay, so who can take Oba Femi to his limits in any match that goes over 5 minutes if he beat Brock Lesnar in 4 minutes and 46 seconds. So the open challenge happened. I hated the open challenge. Brock Lesnar has now returned. Now, the best case scenario with what we have now is that Brock Lesnar puts Oba Femi over at Clash in Italy in a match that goes about 8-10 minutes, so that coming out of that, Oba Femi has a bit more freedom to have programs with other people before he goes for a world championship. In the case that doesn't happen, I guess the next best case scenario is that Brock Lesnar wins at Clash in Italy. It's one apiece, and then we have the rubber match at SummerSlam where Oba Femi goes over and retires Brock Lesnar for good. And I say for good, who knows with Brock Lesnar. But honestly, best case scenario, Oba wins at Clash in Italy and we call it a day, but they go in a match that is 8 to 10 minutes. Next best case scenario, 1-1 rubber match at SummerSlam. But the main thing that I want from this is for Oba Femi to go for a longer match with Brock Lesnar so that it's not so limiting for him to have programs with other wrestlers and for them to go for 10 plus minutes in matches. Do you know what I'm saying? But the short of it is, you know, quite frankly, I don't care to see Brock Lesnar back. The main thing that I'm personally interested in from NXT this week is the fact that DarkState have turned on Saquon Shugars. So we had Osiris Griffin and Cutler James tell Dion Lennox and Saquon Shugars they are going to be the ones to try and recapture the tag team championship from Vanity Project because, you know, obviously Dion and Saquon have their issues, but they have to get on the same page. DarkState have to work as a unit if it's going to continue. And in the match, Dion Lennox essentially had the match won, but Saquon Shugars had blind tagged himself in. So when Dion pinned, the ref didn't count because Saquon was legal. Saquon comes in. I can't remember who they had pinned, but he kicked out of Saquon's pin off of an elbow and then essentially rolled up Saquon Shugars to retain the tag team championship. Now, Saquon's pissed off, Dion's pissed off, Osiris Griffin and Cutler James, who were on the fence or sort of in the middle of Dion and Saquon, maybe look at this like, oh my gosh, Saquon Shugars is the problem. They beat down Saquon Shugars. Dion Lennox joins the fray and they put him through the announce table. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, DarkState as we knew it is officially over. Remember when they were calling them 4 Rogue Performance Center athletes when they debuted last year? And now here we are. And Saquon Shugars, in terms of his personality and character, in my opinion, is the standout of that group. Him and Dion Lennox were the 2 standouts. So I'm quite excited to see what happens next. One thing that I mentioned in my TikTok video about this is that, surprisingly, we've seen Saquon Shugars play kind of like a sideline character for the most part in DarkState because Osiris Griffin and Dion Lennox are the tag team champions, and only recently we've seen more in-ring work from him as a singles, especially in that match against Miles Bourne. Right now, I will say personally, I'm not a major fan of Saquon Shugars' in-ring work, but I love him as a character. So let's see what happens now that he's got more of an opportunity to perhaps do more singles work, considering he's no longer a member of DarkState. However, regardless of my small gripes with his in-ring work, one thing he's great at is selling. He's really, really great at that, and that comes as part of his character. But let's see what happens. We've got Osiris Griffin, Cutler James, and Dion Lennox still part of DarkState, and Saquon Shugars, who has been ousted. The one thing I want to speak about from Dynamite this week is Willow Nightingale having to withdraw from the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament and also relinquish her TBS Championship. So I do believe that she may have acquired a bit of a shoulder injury earlier in the year at Dynasty or Revolution. I think it was one of those shows because she was selling a shoulder injury in her matches. And I don't know if it was just kayfabe then, but it seems that now it's absolutely legit. And she was injured in her match against Red Velvet on Collision this past Saturday. And she's had to withdraw from the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament and relinquish her TBS Championship, which is heartbreaking to see. We never want to see anyone injured and then for it to happen just as the tournament's about to kick off and she has to relinquish her gold. I hope that she recovers smoothly soon and can get back to action. Like she said, that she'll be back and head straight back to the top. I was thinking that with Sari and Persephone injured, that potentially if they weren't able to get back in time, Mercedes Moné could take one of their spots as a wildcard entrant, because where is Mercedes Moné? But perhaps now it's going to be Willow Nightingale that she replaces, which in kayfabe could make for some interesting storyline. However, I think at Double or Nothing, it's now, if I remember right, Athena versus Mina Shirakawa that will take the place of Willow Nightingale versus Alex Windsor, which was originally scheduled for Double or Nothing this Sunday. But wishing Willow Nightingale a smooth recovery and hope that she's back with us as soon as safely possible. Now, on the subject of pay-per-views and big events this weekend, Saturday night's main event takes place on Saturday, 23rd of May. So let's break down the card and do some really quick predictions. So at the moment, it looks like the main event is going to be Penta defending the Intercontinental Championship against All Ego Ethan Page. Now, I love Penta. However, I was very annoyed that Dominic Mysterio dropped the championship to Penta when he could have held it and then dropped it to Finn Balor. But it's fine. Love Penta, so I'm glad that he's had this run. However, I would not mind. In fact, I would love to see Ethan Page win the Intercontinental Championship. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Ethan Page does win the Intercontinental Championship at Saturday night's main event this weekend. And perhaps with WWE wanting to rebuild the tag team division they obliterated, it leads to Rey Fenix and Penta uniting to reform the Lucha Bros. In the realm of tag teams, we also have The Vision defending the World Tag Team Championship against Street Profits. Now, I do not hide the fact that I have no interest in Logan Paul and Austin Theory. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to guess that they retain the Tag Team Championship. I want Street Profits to take them just because I don't like The Vision. But yeah, I'm going to say The Vision retain. We then have Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss versus Jade Cargill, Michin, and B-Fab in a 6-woman tag team match. Now, Jade has called her shot for her rematch at Clash in Italy. I don't know if there's an update on that, but I'm going to say that Jade Cargill, Michin, and B-Fab get this victory so that it gives some grounds or more grounds for Jade to get her rematch against Rhea Ripley at Clash in Italy. And I see Rhea holding the championship and Jade not regaining it. So the best case scenario would be Jade Cargill pinning Rhea Ripley, so at least she gets a pinfall over Rhea and then goes into the rematch and loses again. At least it gives her a little notch on her belt, you know, having pinned Rhea Ripley. But yeah, I've got Jade Cargill, Michin, and B-Fab winning this one. And then we've got the Tag Team Championships being defended by Paige and Brie Bella against the Irresistible Forces. Now, I'm seeing a lot of discourse that people think they are holding those titles until Nikki Bella is good to go again. Perhaps an unpopular opinion, I don't want to see that happen. Love Paige. The Bella Twins, I'm not so enamored with them. I respect their contributions to the business, but Paige is the one that I really, really like. However, despite that, I'm not enjoying her run with Brie Bella as tag team champions. So quite frankly, drop it to the Irresistible Forces in Nia Jax and Lash Legend. But I actually think that Paige and Brie Bella will retain the tag team championship. So my prediction is for them to retain. And then we also have Becky Lynch versus Sol Ruka in a non-title match. I think this is a great opportunity for Sol Ruka. She's had 2 losses on the main roster so far, and Becky is rubbing her nose in it. And rightly so, this isn't a title match. She's got 2 losses. Why should it be a title match? So I'm predicting that Sol Ruka wins this non-title match, and it leads to an Intercontinental Championship match in their next meeting in the ring. So yeah, Becky Lynch losing this one, Sol Ruka winning is my prediction. Moving on to Double or Nothing, happening on Sunday, May 24th. Another Sunday pay-per-view. Tony Khan, why? But you know what? In the UK, it's actually bank holiday on Monday 25th, and I'm sure a lot of people can actually watch this live. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them because the industry I work in does not care about bank holidays. So I have to be up at 7 a.m. on Monday morning. But I guess I'll watch it on Monday or Tuesday. I'll figure it out. The main event is Darby Allin defending the AEW World Championship against MJF in a hair versus title match. So if MJF loses, he gets his head shaved. Now, I am not a fan of Darby Allin, to be very honest. I don't like that he won the AEW World Championship. However, I appreciate that a large portion of the AEW fan base loved seeing him win the championship. Hot take, he has made it feel like the TNT Championship with these open challenges, essentially. But I will give it to him. Good matches. I'm not going to take that away from him. I just don't like how he's made the championship feel like a mid-card title. However, let's not get into that hot take right now. I have MJF regaining the AEW World Championship, and rightly so. Again, he should have never lost it in the first place. We have Tekla defending her AEW World Championship in a 4-way against Hikaru Shida, Chris Statlander, and Jamie Hayter. I like what's going on between Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida, even if I'm really, really hoping it actually goes somewhere, but Hikaru Shida is hilarious. But as for this match, I've got the Toxic Spider Tekla retaining the AEW World Championship. We have Edge and Christian versus FTR in a I Quit match. So if Edge and Christian lose, they will retire as a tag team, so they will no longer tag ever again. I think that this is the time for Edge and Christian to win those tag team championships. So I've got them making FTR say I quit and gaining the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Konosuke Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada. Ooh! Their match at World's End in the Continental Classic semi-final last year, I was just like, they're holding out. They're holding out. This did not hit like I thought it would. Great match. You've got 2 of the greats in the ring. How can it not be a good match? But I know they have another gear to give us in a match. So Okada won that one by underhanded means. I think that Konosuke Takeshita is going to win this and become the new AEW International Champion. So yeah, I'm putting my money on Takeshita, and I'm really excited for this match. We have Jon Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly in a no time limit Continental Championship match. Like Moxley said in his promo on Dynamite, or was it on Collision? I haven't finished watching Collision as of yet. I'm recording this on a Friday. But like he said, at some point, the house has to win. So I think that Moxley is going to retain the Continental Championship and defeat Kyle O'Reilly. Stadium Stampede / Anarchy in the arena. We've got the face team of Jericho, Bucks, Jack Perry, Kenny Omega, and the Hurt Syndicate versus Andrade, Mark Davis, the Dogs, and Ricochet, and the Gates of Agony. I have Chris Jericho, his team, winning this. He's lost to Ricochet quite a few times now. And I think the Bucks took the pin on the 6-man tag team match on Dynamite this Wednesday. I was surprised that Ricochet teamed with Andrade and Mark Davis and not just with Toa Leona and Bishop Khan. But yeah, I've got Team Jericho winning the Stadium Stampede. Athena and Mina Shirakawa in the quarterfinal for the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. I've got Athena winning this match, and I really, really want her to take it right to the end. And if we do have the surprise entrant of Mercedes Moné coming in at some point, another match between them would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think Athena will win this match against Mina Shirakawa and advance to the semi-finals of the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. We've got Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe in the quarterfinal for the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. And obviously there are layers to this match because Samoa Joe is trying to understand why the heck Will Ospreay is aligning himself with the Death Riders when he and the Ops were saving Will Ospreay from having his neck broken by, not broken, but you know what I'm saying, by Death Riders last year. But yeah, Will Ospreay, I think he's winning the whole tournament. So I've got him beating Samoa Joe. We have Swerve versus Bandito in another Owen Hart Foundation Tournament quarterfinal. I have Swerve getting this victory to advance to the semi-finals. And then we have the buy-in hosted by Renee Paquette and Mick Foley. Mick Foley on AEW TV. Let's go. I rarely, if ever, do predictions for the pre-show. So let's move on to the final order of business in this video. Ending with some beautiful news, IYO SKY and Evil announced their marriage. So there had been some, speculation that they were dating and he was seen backstage a couple years ago, but there was nothing said about it. So people weren't sure if they were or not. And I heard that apparently it only got let slip by somebody making a flippant comment by mistake somewhere. But anyway, they announced their marriage and the pictures and everything is just so beautiful. I think there's also a documentary that they did in Japan to go along with it. I haven't watched it. Hopefully I can find some time to watch it. It would be really nice to see. But I'm reading from Getting Over Wrestling Podcast, who kindly translated the statement that IYO SKY put in her tweet when she announced the marriage. And she said, "To everyone who has always offered us such warm support, on a personal note, we Naraku, formerly Evil, and IYO SKY, formerly IYO Shirai, both currently signed to WWE, would like to announce that we are now husband and wife. We each began our professional wrestling journeys in Japan, witnessing different landscapes and skies along the way. However, starting this early summer, we feel a deep sense of destiny and joy in becoming colleagues and kindred spirits as we take on the same stage across the ocean, WWE. From this day forward, as husband and wife, we will support one another in our daily lives. Furthermore, as WWE superstars, we will share both the solitary darkness and the glory, striving to elevate one another so that we may each shine even brighter. Never forgetting our gratitude to the fans and industry professionals who have supported and guided us thus far, we intend to press forward together, aiming for even greater heights. Though we are still two imperfect individuals, we humbly ask for your continued guidance and unwavering support." IYO SKY and Evil, seeing the pictures and some of the clips from their documentary, I love the paradox of the sunshine IYO SKY and the darkness of Evil. I saw a quote somewhere about why IYO SKY, or what IYO SKY loves about Evil, and it was something along the lines of something very poetic, and her being like, she sees a side of him that nobody else sees, and he shrouds her or protects her in his darkness. And he said that he loves her sharp mind. But yeah, I really love this news for IYO SKY and Evil. Unfortunately, the dark side to the the internet, we've got some weirdo who has been AIing himself into pictures with IYO and saying that she should, have tested other options in North America. I don't know. Listen, people, behave. But let's end on the positive note of celebrating IYO SKY and Evil's marriage. That's it for this week. If you liked this video, please like this video. Please subscribe, hit the bell so that you don't miss a video, and I will see you in the next one.